Wendi Dumbroff is a licensed professional counselor based in New Jersey with a profound commitment to helping individuals and couples navigate the complexities of intimacy, communication, and emotional healing. Wendi integrates mindfulness and evidence-based therapy approaches into her sessions. Wendi specialized in learning about family and couples therapy. She's currently pursuing postgraduate certification in the area of sex therapy. Sexual issues are very prevalent in her work with couples as well as individuals, whether they identify as heterosexual, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer, and whether their sexual preferences are more mainstream or kinky. Non-judgmental, open, and safe environments that promote positive change in the lives of her clients is what Wendi offers. Gosh, there's a lot there. So it's been really interesting already talking to you. So I had to remember to hit record at some point, but now we are recording.
We are recording.
First of all, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for having me. Thank you so
it's a
much for
pleasure.
having me here.
I just wanted to start by taking you back a little bit, if that's okay, and to understand what your teenage formative years were like. What can you take from who you were then that's helped you become the person you are today?
You know, I think like so many teens, you feel a little lost, insecure. I remember watching my son and his class when they were getting on the bus for the prom and just looking at these beautiful young kids, but seeing their insecurity just kind of ooze off of them. And uh, I think I kept that in. I didn't know really how to express it. I didn't necessarily have a place to express that. And so I think that helping people express things and feelings and just normalizing for them, it's okay. You know, it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to feel embarrassed to feel that way. And there is a place to talk about it, and there's someone who can just, there are people who can hold it. And if you don't necessarily have someone that you feel safe holding it, or you haven't learned how to say that, or your coping strategies have been such that you never learned, there was no one to listen to you in your family, or there was no one, or nobody talked about emotions in your family, or if anything got up there, or everything was so chaotic in your family that you kept everything down. And so that it is okay to begin to find out what's underneath. Yeah.
Were you always very confident and comfortable in your own body, your own desire, in your own relationships?
No, definitely not. And so I understand that. And even for me as a therapist, it's been normalizing to feel, oh, almost everybody I meet has felt this way at some point. Oh this part of my body isn't nice enough, or this part of my body, or holding your identity because of how your body looks, and also the messages you get. I can't tell you how many women I have met who have said the most important thing to my mother was how you looked. And so that informs who they become as an adult. Yeah. So
It's
yeah,
very
that's
hard, isn't
been,
it? And I
yeah.
think even now, where you hope we're more aware, maybe
Mhm.
we there's so much in society, in social media, in mainstream media, in films and literature that still has this perhaps idealized vision of what somebody should look like. And
Mhm.
it's really hard as a teen when you're going through so much stuff, or as an adult, you go through so
Yeah.
much stuff and you think, well, I don't look like that. It's
Yeah, it is, and it's a big thing, and not only that, but with, porn being so prevalent online,
mm,
what kids grow up thinking sex is, right? So they see these, men who camera angles and make their penis look huge, and they compare themselves to that, or men who can last for, so long, and both men and women will compare themselves to these people in porn, and it's just not sex. It's fiction, right? It's fun. It can be fun to watch if you want to, but it's not reality of what sex is or what bodies always look like.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, it's a big challenge. And some of the research that I've read suggests that boys in particular sort of first access hardcore porn at 11 and 12. And I think when I was not even 11, 12, when I was 13, 14, 15, I guess porn was at best a torn out page of Playboy or Penthouse that's passed on a playground. It was
Mhm.
somebody's older brother or dad, and it was, oh my
Yeah.
god, that
Yeah.
was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Whereas now
Yeah.
and 4 billion hits a month of one individual porn site, people go on that, they click on it,
Uh-huh.
and they see 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes of something, and I think, well, that must be what sex is. And if you believe that, you believe that all women are hairless below the neck. Like I say, all men can last for forever.
Mhm.
All men have, penises much bigger than your own, and yeah,
Mhm.
perhaps women enjoy being in situations with more than one person, or something that's maybe physically difficult. There's not much talk. Well, no talk about consent or anything like that. And it's very hard as a young adult, as a child, really, to actually understand what that
Mhm.
looks like. So do you find? And I guess porn has been around for forever, I suppose. Do you find that younger or even young couples come to you with just confusion about what sex and intimacy is really all about?
Sometimes. And again, I always do a deep exploration of the family. Um, I do it in the form of a genogram. That's my training from the Ackerman Institute. So to look at not just who begat whom in the picture that you draw, but what did you see between, what kind of relationship did you see between your parents? Well, tell me about your dad. What adjectives to describe your dad? Tell me about your mom. Adjectives, just throw them out there. What was your
Mhm.
relationship? What were family messages, written, unwritten, even unspoken messages? Like I said earlier, like nobody talks about important
Mm.
stuff, right? Nobody talks about anything that's below the surface. Nobody touches emotions. Who did you go to if you were happy? Who did you go to if you were sad? Oh, I just kept that inside. I didn't go to anybody. Or I had a sibling who was sick, or I had a sibling who had so many problems. I didn't want to worry my parents with more of my own stuff, so I just learned to cope on my own. Or my family was so chaotic that I didn't want to do anything. I just was very quiet and tiptoed around and stayed in my room and did everything there. So, whatever coping strategies people develop, and I don't know how I got on this tangent
Mm.
from what you initially said, trying to get back to the beginning. But, you know, all of that informs who we are as people, who we are as sexual beings. And a lot of times, what I find with the deep exploration that I do with people of their families of origin and their own experiences, sometimes it's not even a sexual issue that happened
Mm.
that will be manifesting as a sexual issue now. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like detective work to understand that. Well, why can't you have an orgasm with your partner, but you can have an orgasm with on your own, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes about letting go and safety, letting go. And oh no, in my house growing up, I couldn't. It was drugs and alcohol, and my
Mm.
parents. Everything was chaotic, and I tried to keep everything together. I tried not to do anything like that. And so letting go in sex becomes, especially maybe if with a man, right? And their father was an alcoholic. It's a very unconscious process
Yeah.
that's keeping them from that happening. Yeah. And then it's a
I
slow,
should
yeah.
I should have asked this earlier, really. But what was the journey like to to where you are today? So you were saying before, this is not a first career. This is something that you
Yeah.
felt you needed to sort of know more about yourself before getting into. And I said it really feels from reading your stuff, listening to you, that it really very much was a calling. So was there a particular moment, or was it something that you always had in the back of your mind? What's led you to where you are today?
Yeah. I think it was something I always had in the back of my mind, but I didn't know it then. I was a pharmacist in my first life.
Okay.
I worked in a pharmacy in high school. I thought, okay, this is interesting. I always found the body interesting.
Yeah.
I loved my pharmacy education, by the way. I loved learning about the body, and the
Mhm.
body is such an amazing. It's still to this day, to think that everything is there that needs to happen to make a process go in your body, to make cells turn over, to make the heartbeat, to make whatever it is, right? These molecular
Incredible.
processes happen, and so I don't regret that. But even when I got out of college, I thought about doing this, and in my 20s, and I was like, oh, I have two young children. I really can't do that, and I can't go back to school. Can go back to school, um, but it's always something I thought about, and eventually, I guess enough life experience doing some of my own work in therapy, I decided in my early 40s to all right, I'm gonna take the dive, and so I did. And yes, I think you're right. It kind of is a calling. It kind of almost has to be
Mm.
because um, it's an emotionally powerful moment to sit with people every day, and all of those moments together, to be in that very intense space. Um, so I don't I knew that I'd regret it if I didn't do it. And as soon as I got into my first class, I was like, okay, now I can die peacefully one day. May it not be for a long time, right? But I know that I pursued this piece that I really wanted to. Yeah.
And when you're at the end of the day and you've talked to clients, I mean, I would imagine that most clients aren't coming to you to say how wonderful everything is.
Yeah.
That sometimes you hear things that are difficult to hear. How do you almost protect and nourish your own mental well-being? Because it can be you don't want to carry the trauma of somebody else with you. You need
Right.
to be there in the moment. So how do you, simply put, how do you look after yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an important process. Like after I we are done today, I'm going to go to my trainer and do some exercise and get some
Nice.
body work and have him organize me. So exercise is certainly something that I stick to. Uh, it can be very heavy at times, and sometimes you hear things that are just heartbreaking,
Mm.
and I'm human, I take that in. And I think my mindfulness practice helps me with that as well, to notice, like, okay, this is how it is to sit with this is, even in the moment with a client, like, especially important is mindfulness, so that we don't bring what's going on inside of us into the dynamic with the person, because
Yeah.
that's needs to be their space. Um, so I think just awareness, and someone said to me recently, what do I do with this, like, feelings? I was like, you feel them. You're aware of them. You allow yourself to feel them. You take care of yourself in other ways. Make sure you work to eat healthy, take care of your body, have people that you can talk to. Um, uh, and right now, I'm not in my own therapy just because my therapist retired a while back, and I just haven't gotten back into it. But it's important to have awareness and just allow it to be. There's a term
Mm.
I learned a very long time ago in the beginning of my interest in mindfulness and meditation. And I went to a Harvard meditation and psychotherapy conference, and they mentioned the word equanimity. And I thought, oh, that sounds like such a beautiful word, but I don't know what it means. So I looked it up, and the dictionary definition was something like mental calmness.
Okay.
And then I went off to a silent retreat at some point, and every night there was a talk, and one of the talks was on equanimity. And I had a much better explanation there from a teacher. Her name is Kamala Masters. And she said equanimity is best defined by its opposite, which is reactivity. And so it is not necessarily that you feel mentally calm. Things will upset us. But can we be with it just as it is without being reactive to it, right? Without like noticing, oh, I'm having a big reaction to this. Somebody just said something to me that makes me want to, that I feel angry inside. I want to like, punch them, not to punch somebody, but, um, and oh, if you can take that moment and pause with it
Mm.
and allow it to be and do with it what you have to. Maybe you need to clear your head. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you need to take your mind out of it for a moment, right? Read a book or look at a funny video or something. But as long as you have some space in between reacting and responding, then you can work with it, right? And it's the same thing like day to day. It's like just honoring what's there. Like, oh, this feels hard. Not pushing it away or right or oh, today I'm just sitting with a little more heaviness on my heart because I just talked to this person and they're struggling so much with this and that really feels heavy on my heart today. And allowing it to be just as it is. Yeah. Sometimes that's it. It's not about getting rid of it. It's not about pushing it all away. It's just saying, oh, this is what it's like to be sad. This is what it's like to be worried. This is how it is in my body. This is how it is in my thoughts. This is how it is in my emotional place. This is how it is spiritually for me right now to be in this space.
That was a fabulous answer.
Oh,
Yeah. No, yeah, couldn't agree more.
yeah,
It's like, and I think sometimes we want to, sometimes we don't want to feel the emotion, but I do think, yeah, feeling the emotion, but then deciding what you do with the emotion is the
exactly.
important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there's some, there's quite a lot of humor on your website, which is people might think, what? How does that work? But
Gosh,
it's
I haven't read my website in so long, so I
oh
might
gosh, no, no, no. Well, I'll quote some of it to you, and you can think, oh gosh, did I
yeah.
really like that? And I think there are probably still some common myths or misconceptions around what sex therapy actually is.
Uh,
And you have a thing where you say one of the questions on your website is, "So do I need to take my clothes off?" Absolutely not. So
right.
it's really good. I'd like
Right.
to be doing a sort of naked podcast, but no.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do people misunderstand when they first venture? Because it must take a bit of nerve and some guts to go and speak to somebody and say, right, we're coming here for sex therapy. Oh
Yeah,
my god, what does that look like? What
yeah.
what do people expect when they come? What are the surprises you think people have? What yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions of sex therapy. Sex therapy is talk therapy, just like
Mhm.
any other therapy. I do give people exercises to do at home, and we can come talk about it afterwards, but it's
Mm.
not happening in my office. So um, there's a strong boundary there. So just so I think that's one of the biggest like so what does this mean? Like it's talk therapy. And therapy in general, I think people, whether it's sex therapy, and yes, I think there's a lot of courage coming to talk to someone about your sex life and oh, we're not having sex or we have a problem in our sex life or something. Um, but therapy in general, I think people worry about like, okay, I'm here, what do I have to say? And I really like people to know that this is your pace. It's not my pace. I'm not taking you somewhere. And if I ask you anything that you don't want to answer, you just tell me. I'm never going to impose something on someone or try and force
Mm.
anybody to say or do anything. Um, I may ask you why, or tell me what would be hard for you to talk about that. what would it mean to talk about that? And if I think it's important, I might say, well, is it something you'd be willing to maybe come back to in the future or not, whatever. But I will never, ever impose myself onto somebody in any way. So I think people need to know, like, oh no, do I need to come in and reveal my biggest secrets or these things I've held, or just tell you, um, no, it's your pace. And some people have a very, you know, the tortoise and the hare,
Yeah.
right? Some people are very fast, and some people it's slower. So you stay with people where they are. Yeah.
I think one of the things that sadly a lot of us do still carry, and I'm not sure what it's the right word, but we do carry uh, shame or perhaps guilt about sex and what we desire. That might come from, I guess, cultural, societal, family, previous experiences.
Yes.
Is it, would you say it's a case of almost trying to unlearn the shame, or is it a case of reflecting upon it and but somehow trying to negate it? I haven't asked that very well, but do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly. No, no, you asked it beautifully. And it's actually one of the key things that I will do in a sexual history is look for any areas where people felt shamed or developed any kind of shame around sex or their sexuality or what they liked or what they thought
Mm.
was okay. And first, it's like with anything else I do, whether it's sex therapy or not sex therapy, it's understanding. Like, oh, I always say to people, the things you believe, the things you do make sense. It always makes sense when you trace it back, right? Oh, you don't express your emotions because you never had a place to express your emotions. So, of course, right? So you expressed it. Maybe somebody ended up doing something sexually that wasn't quite okay,
Mm.
but they always had to express their emotions in secret or express themselves in secret. So they do something in secret, right? So it makes sense, and it might not necessarily be useful in your life. Yes, it was useful to keep down all your desires when you were growing up because you grew up in this fundamental Christian home and there was no space for that, and God will smite you. Um, and it's not useful in your adult relationship because now you're not connecting with your partner. Right. And not that I push back on anybody's religion, I respect that,
Mhm.
So if somebody feels a certain way, like that's okay. We work again in their world, not in mine. But it's really about helping them to understand, to normalize, and to de-shame. Um, People can't help that shame will come up, but as we said a little bit earlier, it's what you do with it. It's recognizing, oh yeah, I feel, oh hello shame, noticing shame is here. This is what shame is like in my body, in my thoughts. I know that it's because of all those beliefs and all that stuff that was drilled into me that this feels dirty or it feels like I shouldn't do this or um, and right, I can't help how I feel, but now I understand it more. I can help what I do. And what am I going to do with those thoughts? Am I going to go follow them down that dark path? Or am I going to say, maybe shift that? There's another way to think about this. And there are people like me. And there's a lot of people who like this, and I can do this. And so it's a lot about de-shaming. And as you know, in our world, just even now in the political climate in my
Yeah.
country, at least with LGBTQ folks and just what's happening, it's very disheartening that they're being, you know, they're being subjugated in the way that they are. Yeah, yeah. So it's de-shaming, it's allowing, it's normalizing, understanding the connections as to, well, why do you think you feel this way?
Mm.
Yeah.
When I think back to when I was teenager, a young teenager going through puberty or whatever, there's so much going on at the time, for goodness sake. You're going through school exams, you're going through puberty, you're suddenly feeling attracted to girls or boys or whatever, depending on how you feel at the time. And yes, there isn't really anybody to talk to at that age, because certainly school education here is primarily focused on it sounds crazy, but the dangers of sex, so becoming pregnant, getting an STI, and they're talking a little bit about consent now, my children say, which is great. But I said to my children, well, do they talk about pleasure? Do they talk about what pleasure feels? Oh gosh, no, not at all. And I talked to a somatic therapist months ago, and she was saying, when you look back, have you ever sort of just spent a couple of hours even exploring your own body to decide what you enjoy really? And I think it's hard, because as a little boy, 3, 4, 5, 6, you spend a lot of time with your hands on your shorts. You just do. And you want parents, oh, that's dirty. And somehow that gets imprinted in your mind that that's dirty. And or you're playing, doctors and nurses with the other 3, 4, 5-year-olds that are boys, girls, whatever. You don't think anything of it. And it's, no, you can't do that. That's terrible. And it gets, I guess, that, even though I'm sure at the time parents, carers, whatever, aren't doing it to put you off sex for life, it somehow gets imprinted in your mind that no, that's dirty.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. I shouldn't be doing that. And it's only when you get to an age where you are having intimate relationships with people that it probably comes to the fore more than you think. Really, it's trying to exactly. You said there's always a cause for something. It's just letting yourself go back and explore it really. And exactly as you said, well, what are you going to do about the way that makes you feel? How are you going to not overcome, but how are you going to recognize that the things that you like, the things that you might think, gosh, nobody else likes this, nobody else likes, I don't know, I have no idea. Nobody else like whatever particular kink is that somebody has. But that's probably one of the good things with the internet and social media, that it's pretty straightforward to find somebody else that likes getting really messy and eating lots of cake while they have sex or whatever, or somebody that gets turned on by having sex outside or whatever. There is somebody else like that. But perhaps when you were, perhaps 50 years ago, when the internet, you didn't, how on earth would you meet that person? How on earth would you bump into somebody and say, do you like getting covered in sort of cake and whipped cream when we have sex? What? So as a good thing, it does take away those, hopefully, not take away, but recognize there is somebody else like me.
Yeah, just normalizing for people, or, and like what you just said, like if you're a little boy with your hand down your pants and your parents say, "Stop it, that's dirty." What is that? How do you think those messages inform you as a sexual being today? Right? You're always hearing, "That's dirty, that's dirty," and so yeah. I have 2 sons, and I always said to them, "It's okay to do that, but that's private. You do that when you're by yourself. It's okay to do that, but it's private." And so, depending on the messages somebody gets, it does inform who they become sexually. Yeah.
And one of the things that I think that often comes up in a relationship, it might be a year, it might be 10 years, it might be 25 years, whatever. For lots of reasons, one person perhaps desires what they would define as sex less frequently than somebody else. And the one thing I've really tried to keep in my head is that if we replace the word sex with intimacy or pleasure or whatever, I think a lot of people say, well, what is sex? Oh, it's penis and vulva. That ultimately that's what, for heteronormative couples, that's what sex is. And we sort of miss out on everything else. And I think that again, I'm really asking bad questions today, but it's sort of almost, I think, well, if we're not having sex, then we're not intimate. And I think as I get older, it's sometimes harder to get an erection or stay hard for as long. as my partner gets older, she's going through perimenopause, menopause, whatever. There's lots of reasons, physical reasons, mental reasons, whatever.
Mhm.
And somehow you think, well, my partner doesn't want to have sex anymore. And actually, not anymore. Or one person wants to have sex once a week, one person wants to have sex once a year. How,
Mhm.
how do you how do you perhaps help people redefine what
What
sex is? If
sex
that's
is.
a fair question.
That's exactly what it is. It's redefining what is sex. And
Okay.
the first of all, discrepant desire is the primary thing, one of the primary things people come to sex therapy
Okay.
for. Couples come, oh, and it's not always
Hmm.
the man wanting sex, every day and the woman never wanting sex. It's very often the other way around. It's the woman wanting more sex, and a lot of times men will drop out of sex if they feel their penis isn't working like it did when they were 25 or 35. Um, and as you said, redefining sex. And my favorite definition of sex is one of my mentors in the sex therapy world, Suzanne Iasenza. She defines sex as anything you wouldn't do with your neighbor, right? um, and that is just something that you're not going to cuddle on the couch with your neighbor. You're not going to be naked in bed with your neighbor unless you have an open relationship and
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
neighbor is part of your you know group and whatever. And maybe you will, but in general, um, so it is about expanding the definition of sex, especially as people get older. Our bodies change,
Hmm.
and penises aren't going to work as they did when they were 20 years old and when they're 60 years old or 70 years old or 80 years old. But there is no reason. You brought up such a wonderful concept just before, that we never teach about pleasure. We teach that, oh, sex is procreation, this is what happens, this is how your body works, but sex is also for pleasure. And we can bring each other pleasure in many ways. And so that is also part of it, expanding the sexual menu, uh, seeking pleasure with each other's bodies, and touch and or just cuddling together. I can't tell you how many people are just yearning for affection, for affectionate touch. Like, we don't even touch anymore. We don't even, it's like, so it's absolutely about pleasure, affection, touch, and it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be penis in vagina. And, you know, changes in the body,
Hmm.
you can still have pleasure. Men can still have an orgasm with a soft penis. Women can still have an orgasm with a vagina that doesn't lubricate. Um, so it's redefining sex. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's very interesting. And I sometimes think if you perhaps feel you have problems in the bedroom, I think almost the place to look is how you interact with each other. Forget about the bedroom, everywhere else.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you said, do you hold hands? Do you stroke each other's hair? Do you kiss when you're leaving for the morning? Do you kiss when you see each other at night? Do you hold each other, whatever? And if you don't have any of those little moments of intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to imagine how you're going to have an amazing, energetic,
Yeah.
vibrant sex life, isn't it? 'Cause it doesn't just turn on at the bedroom door. I think, especially for women, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
men are sometimes spoken about differently sometimes, but I think especially for women, it's like, right, okay, we're in the bedroom now. Let's have amazing sex.
No, 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 no.
It's yeah.
Foreplay starts from the end of the last sexual act. It's how everything happens in between. And, sometimes couples will come for, we want to work on our sex life, but then you find out their relationship is in such turmoil.
Mm.
It's really hard to get to, you can't, you have to work on the relationship first before you can even think about getting to working on the sex. Because if people are either not communicating, not talking, distancing from each other, or they are fighting all the time, it is kind of hard to want to,
Mm.
okay, let's get down and dirty.
Yeah.
Although sometimes people do You
Yeah.
find out they fight all the time. They don't care. It seems like they don't care about each other. But the only way they can connect is in the bedroom, and so
Yeah.
they have that. So that is also something. That's the one way. Well, if we didn't have sex, we wouldn't have anything. Yeah.
Do you get do you get people coming to you with what might broadly be defined as questions around grief? And I don't necessarily just mean grief of losing someone, but grief can be in a form of betrayal. It can be in a form of we grieve about aging or losing this penis that we had when we were 25, whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder how or what role understanding grief plays in intimacy.
Yeah, I think it is like anything else. We make those connections. That's where like the deep exploration of a person's life,
Hmm.
and not just their life, what they did, but as you said earlier, their broader cultural context they lived in. And it's interesting that you talk about grief and changing stages of life. And this past week, I just happened to have so many conversations about that with people about whether it was a young person actually who was like recognizing, oh, I'm entering that next phase of being with a partner, and I'm not, in my 20s anymore. I'm not just out of college anymore, or it's somebody in their 60s who's saying, we're getting closer to the end than the beginning, and my body's not the same as it was. I probably, I don't know, so many conversations like that this past week. And um, so it is because our lives are always changing. We chatted a little before we started recording about,
Mm.
your life is in change with your daughter going off to school, and just that kind of like, oh, grieving the loss of having young children at home all the time, or children at home all the time. Um, and depending on if it is affecting sexuality, or maybe an early grief can affect, like, that you don't even realize you've pushed something down, and it could be informing your sexual life. It could be informing your life in other ways, or how you react to your partner, because of other things. It's really no different when I work with sex than I just work with a couple if it's not sex therapy.
Mm.
I mean, it's different in the sense like what you do with it. Maybe you'll do different exercises, but it's really about awareness and knowing and making connections to the past, and how did early life experiences inform who I am now. Whether it's why do I get so angry when you um, I don't know, you leave a cup on the counter in the kitchen, but it's not really a big deal, but something about that triggers me, and oh, well, I feel disrespected, and I never felt respected as a kid. So it's not about the context necessarily of what's happening, but the deeper meaning of that. Oh, why do I feel so upset when we go to your parents' house? Well, you don't defend me. You don't stand up for me when somebody says something to me that's unkind. So it's really always about the deeper meaning of how, and doing that exploration of how something, whether it's grief or something else, affects us as adults.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just on my story for a minute. So this is
Yeah.
free therapy now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to live with that for a second. So like we said at the beginning, my daughter's just gone off to college. My son will be going in a couple of years, and I would say that over the course of the last 18 years, probably 80% of the conversations we've had in the house between my wife and I, or with family, or whatever, have been about or concerning the children. And not that we weren't sort of talking about it when they're hundreds of miles away, but I do sometimes sort of think or worry about, gosh, well, when we first got together, we talked endlessly. There was nothing else to do. We talked, we were intimate, whatever. We had an incredibly wonderful relationship. We have a great relationship now, but I think, gosh, how do we, and this isn't about sex, I don't think. How do we almost reopen or re-energize those communication channels when it's not just about, God, right, who's going to pick Alexandra up? Right, you can drop Madeline off. Okay, well, Madeline's here. What do they want for dinner? And when we're not having those conversations, but how do we suddenly, yeah, how do we suddenly fill 80% of the time when we talked about the children with talking
Yeah.
about something else?
Yeah, it's a shift. It's a new it's something that is a huge change in your family. And
Mm.
so, I just as you were talking, I had this image of building like a campfire. And what do? You have some embers.
Mhm.
So you feed it, you nourish it with tinder, and you get oxygen in there, and slowly the fire begins to grow. And I think that's what you do. You nourish it. You sit down with your partner after a day. You've been away, she's been away. You come back together and tell me about your day. What did you do? Tell me. We've each had these experiences today. What was it like for you? What happened today? Um, and just beginning to talk to each other and get in touch with, oh, I had this experience today with this person. I ran into this guy at
Cool.
the store, and this is what happened. And so just it's nourishing and nurturing the relationship as you would, as you're building that campfire, and lighting it, and helping it to grow, and making the time for that, right?
Mm.
It's easy to kind of be ships that pass in the night. You come home, you're exhausted. I know at the end of my day, the last thing I want to do is talk to anybody, because I've been talking to people all day, right? And
Mm.
so it's like, and I'm pretty much an introvert. Generally, I need like alone time to recharge.
Mhm.
And being with my husband, that's
Mm.
he counts. Like he can be there, right? But I don't necessarily feel, but if I want to nurture this relationship, then I need to tune in, and listen. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think so many of the questions that we've talked about, I think communication just becomes so important, really. And I remember talking to a really wonderful lady in Romania a few months ago, and she's a dominatrix. She's absolutely fabulous. She's a young lady. She must be in her late 20s, early 30s. And she was saying that a lot of time when men come to her, it is men 95% of the time, it's it's the talk really, and it is to say things or be to allow themselves to be submissive to somebody in a way. And then she sort of say to them, "Well, why don't you do this with your partner?" And it's, "Oh, I can never ask my partner about this." And it's almost that fear of what might happen. And I just wondered with that, I mean, how. So if somebody comes to you and says, "Look, I've always wanted to try this, or I used to do this, and I've never really liked it, and I don't know how to say it," how do you almost help people create the safe space for that conversation?
Mhm.
Because as a contrast, I've had friends that I've sort of talked to, and they've had this thing in their head for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and then suddenly they'll sort of blurt it out. And I said, that's never going to go anywhere. I've always wanted to dress up as a woman. I've always wanted to be a
Mhm.
furry. Okay, right. And because you've built this whole thing up in your head 5 years,
Right.
and then you're suddenly just thrown into your partner, expecting them
Right.
to sort of, oh gosh, yes, so have I.
Yeah.
And the odds are that's unlikely to happen. So I wondered, yeah, how do you help or advise people almost to create that
Yeah.
non-judgmental, safe space for that conversation?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And it's happened. I have couples that come in and say, "Oh, I'm kinky. I don't think my partner's kinky." They didn't reveal that before they got married, or maybe they didn't know it before they got
Yeah,
married. But they want to do certain things that they don't think their partner would ever do. One of the things I do when I work with couples around sex is I help them create a sexual menu. and to
Okay.
put anything on there, like from the most vanilla to the kinkiest thing you might want to do, you put it on there. And just like with any menu, some things will get chosen and some things are an absolute no.
Mm,
So you have to respect that. Um, and then what happens if someone says, I can't do that, right? And the other person says, this is really important to me. So then it becomes looking for perhaps some other ways, like, are you going to be okay if I go out to do this, to find a dominatrix because I really want to be submissive, or find for myself to find a safe space to do that, or can I get that through porn, just watching porn of whatever it is that I like. So it becomes a negotiation in the
mm,
relationship, and sometimes people just say, okay, I'm not going to get that, and I'm okay with that, right? And I can watch it on, I can watch the porn of it, or I can do whatever, or
mm,
if the partner is willing or compromising, or we can open the relationship to whatever extent so that I can do that, but not to, open the relationship in ways that they feel comfortable with, and always setting parameters around
mm,
open relationships. Yeah. But it can be a problem if it is really, really important to one partner.
mm. And I sometimes think it's like you said, it's not necessarily fulfilling exactly the fantasy or the kink in the words that a person might describe it as, but it's are there alternatives to it that provide the same thing? So I know a lot of people indulge in to role play, and that's
Mhm,
bringing somebody into the. I've always wanted to sleep with somebody else. Well, okay, but you become somebody else, and that
mhm.
does that fulfill it?
Yeah,
Or there's and the whole thing about being submissive. It's maybe that's a counter action to the man thinking, but I always instigate sex. Oh, I've never ever, and she
mhm.
might say she does, never ever starts the sort of
Yeah,
the sex sort of thing. And maybe once or twice can ask if she demanded sex from me or
mhm,
wanted sex, and that can be enough really. But it's
yeah,
yeah. I think sometimes we think we've got to fulfill the whole thing.
mhm.
We're sort of swinging from the trapeze sort of thing. But actually, it's not.
Yeah,
We don't have to do that. As
yeah,
a little. It's like the menu of food, isn't it? Sometimes
mhm.
a little bit of what you fancy is
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
enough.
yeah. And I also wanna just say that it may not always be that somebody feels they want to or should reveal that,
Yeah.
what they like. If they really feel that it's something that they wanna keep private,
Hmm.
that's okay, right? Everybody is entitled to privacy. So if somebody has some secret fantasy or something that they say, should I tell my partner? Shouldn't I tell my partner? It depends, right? And
Yeah.
so then that requires a discussion. So I just kind of want to clarify that it's
Mhm.
not necessarily that someone always may say it. They may say, no, it's enough for me to
Mhm.
keep it private. I don't need to say that. I think it would really put my partner off. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to keep that. And I can think about that during sex or something.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you, do you or have you ever been surprised at something somebody's come to you with, whether it be a kink or something? Think, oh gosh, I never thought of that. And do you still get some? Oh, I think it's just you know them all now.
No, I don't know them all because I haven't met every person in the world. But but I I don't think I've really been surprised, um, because I think it always makes sense. It
Yeah.
always makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to say I've never been like, oh, okay, yeah, that's one I haven't heard. That's something I haven't heard before. But it always, I really always think of it as, wow, this makes sense because
Mm.
look at these experiences, and we make those connections.
Yeah.
It can be mind blowing sometimes for people. They're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. I never realized that, but that makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'll throw out a, do you think it's this? It's, I don't know better. You know better. But does this resonate for you? And if it doesn't, we move on. And yeah.
It is a really wonderful feeling though, just in life in general, where something sort of
Yeah.
that, and it could be about anything. It could be about anything in the world. Not probably not sex, less than sex and earth, but it's just like, oh my goodness, yeah, that completely makes sense now.
Yeah.
And I it sometimes takes me a while to catch on to things, and sometimes I hear something. Oh gosh, yes,
Yes.
it's such a wonderful feeling. It's,
Yeah.
it's so
It really
lovely and
is. It
really,
really is.
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe it's nice that I don't know everything. Like, gosh, wow, that really makes sense now.
Yeah.
Somebody roll their eyes, oh goodness. You think, well, no,
Yeah.
it suddenly connects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that feeling, right? Even as you say it, and I can feel that feeling.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
just like as an example of mindfulness, just notice what that's like in your body, right? Like,
Yeah. Yes.
oh, it's kind of like like for me, it's in like here and it's in my
Yeah.
head and it's just like, oh my God, yeah. And it kind of filters through your body and
Definitely.
it's just such a wonderful, like, I get it now, right? I
Mm.
understand this that I've never been clear and now I get it. Yeah.
Do you find that more people are coming to you talking about or looking maybe to explore non-monogamy, polyamory, open relationships? It's sometimes you sort of see or hear things in the media, and you say, "Oh my gosh, it must be. Why am I doing this?" But
Uh-huh.
do you find that is it something that's coming up more often, and how? I always thought, oh, bloody hell, it's quite complicated. I wonder how you help people almost navigate it. 'Cause it can be quite complicated, can't it?
Yeah, it absolutely can be quite complicated. I think sometimes if a couple is non-monogamous in whatever way they choose, because there's
Hmm.
so many different ways,
Mm.
they might be coming for regular couples issues,
Hmm.
but they'll choose a sex therapist because you know because I won't judge. They feel like I'm not going to judge
Yeah,
that or anything. So sometimes I have couples like that, just or kinky couples. They're coming not for anything to do with their sexuality or their kink. That's all fine, but it's the relational piece.
mm.
So, but they want someone who will understand. That this is what we do and not pathologize that in any way. And there are some couples where it is about helping them to open a relationship. And yeah, um it's there. Most of the couples I work with, I would say, yeah, maybe 30% of the couples I've work with are non-monogamous, so probably more than it would have been 20 years ago, or 30 years, certainly 50 years ago. um, yeah.
It's funny because if you look back through anthropology, probably hundreds of years ago, that was probably the common state of being, really. So it
Mm,
was because you have that saying, "It takes a village to raise a child," and I think when that literally was the case, people often weren't sure about which childs were yours. It didn't matter because the village raised it. Once we got into that, once we decided we wanted to own property and fence off our belongings, including our partner,
uh-huh.
I guess that's when monogamy became the norm, really, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it feels like we yeah. I think and I think, like you say, it's just managing that relationship and making sure everybody's clear about what it
Yeah.
because there's probably as many variants of
Yeah.
non-monogamy as there are of Baskin Robbins ice cream. There's so many different variants of it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And as long as there are parameters, and the problems arise not because of the non-monogamy, but it's when somebody breaks the boundaries of that. Oh,
yeah,
you contacted that person and I wasn't
mhm,
with you.
yeah,
That's not okay. Like, we do
mm,
that together. So yeah, that's usually where the problems will arise. And of course, there's always risks with non-monogamy. As much as we
yeah,
say, it's definitely doable, but we're all human and we have feelings and things happen. Relationships can deepen. So um, it's not without. risk. Certainly it's a piece of things. Yeah.
Mm. And I always think it's a bit like, and whether this is apocryphal, I'm not sure, where people will sort of say, "Oh, we'll have another baby because that'll fix our marriage." I think if
Oh.
if
Mm,
if your
mm,
relationship isn't in a healthy state, I don't necessarily think adding more complexity to them is the answer. Really, you also want to start off on a very strong foundation. I think.
yeah. The only reason to have a child is because you want a child.
Yeah.
We all know, anyone who's had a child knows how difficult it is and how taxing it is on a marriage to have
Yes.
have a baby. My oldest son is a dad now, and my granddaughter's about to be 1 year old next month, and you know, I've been I've been reminded as I've been,
Yeah.
watched them and thrown back into like what it takes to care for a baby, and it is not absolutely not a reason to have a child. Uh, you have a child because you want a child, and you want to love a child, and not you have a child for the child, not for you or your needs, and that's a good mantra to keep in mind throughout
Definitely.
life in raising a child, I think. Yeah.
It is amazing. I was saying before, I remember bringing Madeline home from the hospital, and you literally you have this child. The hospital, if you have it there, gives it to you, and that's it. Off you go.
Yeah.
It's like what? And it really. I mean, it's yeah. And I because I didn't have any nieces or nephews, didn't sort of babysit. And I think my daughter was the first child I ever held, so I had no idea at all.
Wow.
At
Yeah.
all. My wife had babysat, and she'd had nephews, nieces, all that sort of good stuff, and she does
Yeah.
cousins and things, and knew far more about it, thankfully. But yeah, I remember just sort of carrying this child in this little sort of car seat to the car, thinking, "Oh my goodness, they've just they're just like giving it to us. It's extraordinary." And somehow, you just hope you're not going to screw up too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
they burst through all those milestones so quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, before you know it, like I was saying, Banner's off to college, and you think,
Yeah.
"Gosh, we managed to get her this far." Then okay, it's yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I could just keep talking. But I just wanted to just ask one last question, and I'll let you get about your day. Was what are you a sort of planner? Do you know what the future looks like for you? What does the next 5 years feel like it brings to you?
Oh, well, one, I hope for good health always. um, for me, my family is the most important thing. And so it always has been, so just kind of continuing to be there for my now adult children, be with them. One of my sons lives across the country in California,
Mhm.
so I don't see him as much, but uh, to get to know my granddaughter better and better every day, and to keep working. Right now, I really
Yeah.
love my work. I'm taking a training starting at the beginning of the year, a type of therapy that I've done some workshops with, but
Okay.
it fascinates me. And so I'm really excited to learn that, and so just to kind of with good luck, with the grace of God or whatever you believe in the universe, to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, and be with my family. Yeah.
Fabulous. That's a great thing to think about. It's hard to think of you as a grandma, but yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm a grandma and I love
Yeah.
every second of it.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. It's amazing to see your child have a child.
It
Um,
must be, yeah. It must be,
it's such a beautiful, beautiful feeling.
yeah. Yeah, I can remember when my mum and my wife's mum have passed away sadly relatively recently, but they photographs of them again, photographs my daughter's taken with her. There's two of them sort of holding her, and looking at her, and they're looking at my wife, Justine, thinking, "Gosh, yeah, you're our child, you're one of our child, and my daughter-in-law, and now suddenly you've produced
Uh,
this next child." It's yeah, it must be a really weird,
yeah.
amazingly warm, and just
Yes.
yeah, a reason to smile, which I think we need lots
Oh,
of these days.
a reason to smile, and your heart just explodes with love. So, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I've
you.
really enjoyed it. You've
Yeah,
been
you've
very generous with
been a
your
pleasure.
thoughts and knowledge, so it's great.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. You're very thoughtful questions. Very,
Thank
very
you.
thoughtful questions. I appreciate it.